Welcome to Prepping for the Studio. If you're a musician or musical artist that wants to learn more about what goes on, how to prepare, or how to make the most out of your studio session, you're in the right place. Hello, welcome back to Prepping for the Studio, the podcast for musicians who want to learn more about what goes on in the studio, how to prepare, and how to get the most out of their sessions. I'm Roy Silverstein, and I'm joined by my co-host, Brian Schubel.
Howdy doody.
How you doing, Brian?
Pretty good.
Great. We're in season 2 here of the podcast, and that means we have guests. And today we have Ariel Levine.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Woo! It's great to have you, Ariel.
It's great to be here.
Awesome.
You might recognize the name because I've mentioned Ariel because he did the theme song for the podcast.
I did.
And it's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was conceptualizing this podcast and kind of this little thing came into my head, prepping for the studio. Kind of silly, but I was like, this might be something. And I was like, you know what? Like, I could do this myself, but I think it'd be more fun to just have someone like Ariel do it because I'll obsess over it and it will take too long and it'll be way easier.
Instead, you outsourced it for me to obsess over it.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I think worked out a lot better. I'm going to just play it for you guys because you guys probably haven't heard it. You've heard little bits at the beginning and the end, unless you went to the Prepping for the Studio website where you can go down to the bottom. There's actually a music video that I did for it.
What?
Yeah.
Cool.
Did you know that?
I got to check that out.
Yeah.
Right. I totally have seen that before. I watch it all the
time. Yeah, but I'll play it for the audience here, and just so you can hear the whole thing because it's so great. Isn't that amazing, guys?
That's awesome. Yeah, we love it.
I love it. It is kind of a microcosm of prepping for the studio in a way because I was the artist in this case, and Ariel, you were at least the engineer, mixer, artist, musical for hire.
You were the songwriter.
Yeah, as a songwriter.
Yeah, and I guess technically, I was everything else, but you gave me a bare bones skeleton idea of the song that was, it's great because it's like what you gave me was the perfect amount of, well-writtenness, if that's a word, and simplicity, which gave me a lot of room to grow, on top of your song. Yeah,
it gave you some ideas of I want it to be kind of a Cars Devo sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's literally an iPhone voice memo that I did in a minute.
Hey, some of the best things are done on iPhones now. I know you mentioned Devo, so I actually took some time and I listened to, I unfortunately forget the name of the album right now because I'm getting old, but it's their last album.
Okay.
I think at this point is almost 20 years old, but it's still their newest album.
Okay. Yeah.
Which has Don't Shoot on it, and oh my God, I forget all the names of the songs. It's a great album, and I listened to that one because I didn't want to give you something that sounded dated, because this is a podcast about recording, so I thought their latest and greatest would be a great influence. And I just kind of picked bits and pieces of ideas from that and from the Cars, like you mentioned, and that's what I got. In the box production, which is, all virtual instruments, right. Plus guitar and stuff, but virtual amps and stuff.
Right.
I'm relatively new to that world.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm 5 years into that world because I'm a old school
Yeah.
recording studio
Yeah,
guy.
we should talk about your background and all this stuff. But yeah, what was your point?
It's fun when the song's only 40 seconds, you know. And I actually I gotta say, I'm really proud of that song. I'll just put it on sometimes, you know.
Oh,
I'll just
really?
listen
Really?
to it. Yeah.
Nice.
Sometimes I have to.
Yeah. It reminds me of The Knack, which is that era.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah, it does have a little bit of that My Sharona sort
Yep.
of thing.
Yeah. I'd kind of like to write a song out of the groove, like a full length song, you know. You'll get 50%, of course.
Cool. Yeah, no, it was kind of collaboration. You did change it a little bit from what my initial thing, which was great.
Yeah, it didn't have to do much though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was I made the demo basically, and then I hired the right person, so there was sort of a demo phase. I guess you could call it pre-production. I don't know, but hired the right person and let them do their thing, which is something we can talk about too in this episode. The theme of this episode, by the way, is going to be kind of our complaining episode, joyfully, and it's kind of, we're not trying to make an engineer versus artist. We love you guys, and you
Can't do it without you.
yeah, we can't. We literally can't, and we're so appreciative of every artist who comes to the door and hires us to do stuff, because it's amazing that you even do that, considering music is almost worthless these days as far as streaming goes, at least. But there's things that happen in sessions that are pretty annoying to engineers, and this is going to be kind of a fun episode where we just kind of complain about stuff.
Yeah, here's what not to do.
Yeah, and it'll be educational too. But yeah, I let Ariel do his thing, which is important, because you don't want to be micromanaged. And then I just listened to what you did, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's great. We made a couple changes.
Yeah,
and then it was done.
Yeah, yes, you let me do my thing, but collaboration is always welcome and it's appreciated. Yes, there are ways to take it too far as micromanaging goes, but we are also working remotely, which is a completely different language than working together in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
And I've done a few of these podcasts. I call them podcast packages, because I'll give you the full length for the end, the short one for the intro, a couple of stingers, things like that. And I'm available for more, by the way.
Yes.
Did you say stinkers or stingers?
Good old stinkers.
Yeah, stinkers. Okay.
And yeah, you had just the right amount of notes to sort of send me in the right direction. I never get it right the first time. I always kind of overdo it and give you a lot of ideas in the beginning, and then I take things away until it sounds like something real.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what happened, and it was great and glorious.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is your background in audio? Where did you grow up? How does your life begin?
Tell us about it.
I grew up on the East Coast, New York City, and before that, I was in the sticks of Connecticut.
Okay.
I am a musician first, so I think I'm a pretty good resource as far as how to be a musician in the studio. High school, I was recording on 4-track Tascams like everyone else.
Nice. Me too. Yeah.
Then when I was around 18, a friend of mine had a home studio in his house in Brooklyn, and he had the first Pro Tools system I ever saw. That was Pro Tools 5 at this point.
Okay.
It was 1999.
Okay.
And we would just stay up all night making demos and having a grand old time. And here I am, 18 years old. I'm out of the house. I'm not going to college. I'm working odd jobs to make money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna be a rock star, of course.
Of course.
That's what I was going to do with my life.
Yeah.
And I was bad at waiting tables and things like that. So I was thinking of about the recording I did with my friend, and I went, well, I'll do that instead of waiting tables. That'll be a great way for me to get my foot in the music industry, learn more, learn how to produce. I can record and produce myself, etc. Meet people, make connections, and then I'll be a rock star. So I went to Institute of Audio Research, which was in downtown Manhattan. It is now sadly defunct. 6-month school, and got an internship immediately out after school.
Nice.
And started working at that studio. And
Which studio was it?
it was called Uptime Studios.
Okay.
It was in Midtown Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
We were a classical studio. We
cool.
didn't record symphony orchestras. It was on the 8th floor, a small independent place. But anytime a high school kid needed to record an audition tape for Juilliard, we were the place to go.
Gotcha.
The owner of the studio was a pianist, so we had like the most well-tempered Steinway in the city.
Nice.
And the room had like stone walls imported from wherever to,
Wow.
you know. So it was actually a great way to cut my teeth because classical people are extraordinarily persnickety and will have you like will have you automate like 0.2 dB on specific notes.
Right.
You know, I mean, I didn't edit those students' demo tapes. They played it all by themselves.
Yeah,
totally
it was
natural. There was
100%.
no editing. But anyway, long story short, you know, I've managed to eke out a career over these years. And I moved to San Diego, and the recording stuff kind of took a backseat while I was actually doing more, you know, performing and being a musician.
That's how I first met you. Is you were playing in Dinosaur Ghost.
Yeah. And
you
that's
guys came in.
yeah. You were like just open. I think we were one of the
You were an very early rarefied client.
Yes, early adopter. Yes. And I found some of the good sweet spots for room mics in that little room there.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, to be honest, like the musician in me and the recording guy, the producer, engineer in me, they've always kind of fought each other. Because I was always like battling, like, I don't want to be too successful in recording because I want to be a rock star. This rock, you know, I need money and I like recording. I forget the music, you know.
Yeah.
And I finally, like, after like 20 plus years of doing it, I think I've finally gotten to a point where the two can coexist peacefully.
Great.
You know, obviously my goals have changed. My delusions of grandeur have changed.
You're not gonna be a rock star anymore.
You know, never say never. I think the best case scenario is somebody happens upon one of my own songs and it's like, hey, I want to put that in a commercial. Here's 50 grand, you know.
That'd be nice. They're great songs. I mean, you did that whole Let the Machine Get It album, a lot of it here, right?
Yeah.
And since then, you've done other stuff too.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
Go listen to it, guys. Look up Ariel
Cool.
Levine.
Yeah.
Check out some of his records.
You are a rock star in your own world, you know.
In my own little world, yes.
So,
I close my eyes at
there's
night.
that.
There I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then I remember you were also at one point coming in here and working with some artists and stuff like that as a engineer, producer.
Yeah.
You still do a little bit of that kind of thing.
I do. I mean, I don't record bands so much right now. Not that I wouldn't. You know, during the pandy, you know, the nature of my career changed and a lot of it became remote. And I took on other types of jobs, primarily mixing. I quickly had to learn how to master because nowadays people want you to do both. So, and then I started doing things outside of, you know, music, just audio. I do a lot of sound design and sound mixing for film and any type of video, web series. I did Foley, things like that.
Okay.
So now my portfolio is very broad in and out of music, and I do some composing as well, some scoring. So I'm kind of a jack of all trades at this point.
Nice.
Because of having to work remotely, I had to adapt into doing all that stuff. And then recently, the home studio started to get a little bit, you know, not putting on pants every day is you know, so I finally, my remote homework now moved back into a studio. So now I have my own space and I'm, you know,
Put your pants back on.
Put my pants back on and, you know.
That's good.
But
Do you
yeah,
get some interaction at the space you're at. Singing Serpent, it's called, right?
Yes.
Yeah, another studio in San Diego. That's great. They have a lot of little production suites because it
Yes.
used to be a jingle house. And then now, like, jingles are probably just made at people's homes, ironically.
Yeah.
Where you were, like, you know, because a lot of it's done with virtual instruments now. It's kind of, you know, not the same as it used to be where you needed a studio, you needed the live room, you needed to actually record musicians to make these jingles and stuff like that. And now it's kind of just like, oh, you just program it or whatever.
Yeah.
So that space has become full of independent music producers, and there's also like a guitar amp maker, and Taylor Guitars has like a suite in there.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I'm so happy. Like, I just getting up in the morning and putting clothes on, or showering first and then putting clothes on and like getting in my car with my bag and my lunch and like leaving feels so great. Like I try to maintain like normal-ish hours, like 10 to 6 type things.
Yeah.
And if I don't have any work to do that day, if I don't have a client to work, then that's my day to play with my stuff or practice or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, walking out of my room into the kitchen and seeing Adam from Satellite Amps or the owner of Singing Serpent and some of the other producers. Look, I can't afford the place. I'm going to be honest with you, but it's just kind of like if you build it, they will come. I'm definitely more exposed than I was in the second bedroom of my apartment. So
yeah, that's good networking in it. And back in the day, this used to be the thing. I'm sure Brian experienced a lot. Like you go into the break room and you get conversation going with other people, and it's probably a really nice thing.
It's a great thing. Yeah.
Yeah. You miss those days, Brian?
Oh, big time.
And they still do jingles there too. So
they still do. Okay.
Yeah. With my skills doing a podcast songs, I got that jingle thing down.
Yeah, no, it's very catchy what you did.
That's good.
For me.
But enough about me.
I like that place over there. I haven't worked there yet, but
oh, that's great. Yeah, they have a great live room and the control room. The main control room is very nice too, with big ATC speakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a great studio in town.
But it's nothing like Rarefied.
Oh yeah, well,
yeah, there you go.
That's where we're at right now, recording this, my place. But yeah, well, let's get into the complaining part, the kvetching part that we all came here for today. Again, it's just for having fun here. Just things that happen in sessions that just kind of get under the skin of engineers that you want to maybe avoid. Should I start with one?
You start.
Okay, I'll start. So, I mean, this is just going to like showing up on time, basically. Like, I hate when someone comes in like super early or super late. Because like if you're coming super early, it's like, oh man, I'm like, dude, I just like got here like I'm just trying to get some stuff going. Maybe I'm finishing something for someone else. I don't know. And
have a cup of coffee.
Yeah. And it's like you paid for like a certain time, It's like you come early, you're kind of getting like freebie time here now. And then if you come super late, obviously we're just kind of waiting on people. Like, okay.
I don't mind the late part.
Yeah.
I get more time to myself.
True.
And it's your dime.
Yeah, that's the thing that you have to remember, though. It's like I'm not necessarily going to extend the session beyond our agreed upon time just because you're late.
Right.
Maybe if you can pay for extra time, sure. But otherwise, probably not, because there might be something else going on or whatever. You paid for a certain time, like I showed up.
Yeah.
Where were you?
That's a good one, Roy.
That's good, yeah.
That was the first one.
I remember when I worked on a few rap sessions, starts at 6, 7 o'clock. No one shows up until midnight.
Wow.
And you work till 8 a.m.
Wow.
But you knew going in.
That was kind of the thing.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, I think, once you reach a certain level of rock stardom or rap stardom, you can probably get away with this sort of thing. Yeah. And people can't really complain because you're a superstar. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
But most of you aren't there yet. Sorry.
I like what you said. You said something when we were just kind of talking about everybody doing their thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And left to it.
Yes.
And now everybody having DAWs at home, they all have their favorite plugins.
Mm-hmm.
They have their way of editing. So a lot of times if you're at the console working in Pro Tools or Logic or whatever, when you have people over you saying, oh, try this, oh, do this, or maybe this, that can get very annoying really quickly.
Standing over your shoulder like they do it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why did you hire me?
Yeah. I mean, they have their way of working, which is great, but to tell someone else to work the way you work isn't really fair. And plus, you might learn something if you watch somebody work differently.
Who's probably been doing it longer than you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
True.
yes.
Have you had clients like this before, Ariel?
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, I sometimes am that client. I actually have to remember myself. Like when I'm a musician in a session, I also have to know my role. Everybody has their roles, and it's hard to do sometimes because I'll be sitting on the couch after a take. I did a whole album recently in Nashville. I was just the bass player, and I did a little guitar.
Okay.
And it's hard to sit on the couch and watch somebody do something that you like. I want so bad to tell them like, oh, the 5K is squealing, EQ that out, like they'll get to it, it's not my place, I'm I'm sure there are things that I can do better than them, and there are probably a lot of things that they can do better than me. So it's like, you know what, just sit back and watch somebody else do it, and you might learn something. And I did, you know.
Yeah.
Mostly this guy's best skill was interaction with the musicians, which is something I had to learn. You know, it took me years to learn how to communicate with people.
It's important. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. My biggest pet peeve is, you know, just remember that we are human beings. We get hungry.
Yes.
We have to use the bathroom. We need to rest our ears and our bodies, and we need to go to sleep at some point, just like you. I've been in sessions where the artist is so amped up that they don't realize we've now reached hour 12 and we're going into 13 and potentially 14. And I empathize because I too, as an artist, will get that, you know, obsessive spark where I don't want to stop, but I do it alone by myself. I'm not hurting anybody else. So you have to remember you're working with a human being, and as inspired as you might be, you're gonna have to stop when the time is appropriate.
Right. And try to think about a food break at the appropriate time too, because that happens to me a lot where groups come in and they just didn't even consider it, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I always have snacks with me because sometimes they're not stopping.
Yeah. It's tough too, because with Pro Tools now, you're running Pro Tools. So nothing gets done unless you're sitting at Pro Tools.
Right.
Unless you have somebody in the band or something.
It becomes an every man for himself, or everyone for himself as far as eating. And it's like, okay, but I'm like, if no one's taking a break, what am I supposed to do? I'm just sneaking in chips, like, in between. Yeah.
And we love pizza, but like, not every. There's other things. Sometimes we engineers also need a vegetable from time to time.
Yes,
Vegetable
I definitely had a week last week where I felt like I have not eaten a vegetable in a while.
Yeah,
I need to go home and eat a salad.
Yeah.
What are you? Do you typically do day rates here?
Typically hourly.
Okay,
Actually, yeah.
And I assume you have like a minimum, like a 2-hour minimum.
Yeah, 2-hour minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your maximum?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I mean, I really wouldn't like to go more than 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, 12 is a very long day.
You mean personally or for the studio?
It could be 15. I mean, here, I suppose.
Yeah.
But like,
You wouldn't let somebody work around the clock?
I mean, possibly if they were maybe just mixing or something. If they were on their own without me, I wouldn't want to be there.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Camped out.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a 10-hour day, 12-hour. I mean, more than 12. I mean, more than 12 hours. You're just. I don't know if anything good happens after that.
Yeah, I can't do those days anymore. When I was young, I could do them, but
Yeah. It gets crazy.
yeah,
Yeah.
sitting all day.
Yeah.
I know, one of the things I've done when I'm going back to our, everybody has their job, let them do their job.
Yeah.
If I get someone who just constantly is telling me, try this, do this, I'll just say, you know what, sit here and do what you want to do. And then when you're done, I'll sit back over there.
Yeah.
Because it gets really annoying.
Yeah. I've had this.
And on the other hand, too, if you are working with somebody, especially if you're a musician or you're a producer and you're coming in and the guy who's running Pro Tools isn't very experienced and kind of holding up the session, then sometimes you might have to egg them on a little bit, kind of push the...
Yeah. But I've had this experience where the artist was like telling me very specific things of like, okay, pull up this EQ. Okay, drop this frequency this much.
Do you want to just do it?
Yeah. I'm like, at some point I was like, you seem to know exactly what you want. Like, I can set you up and you can do it. But he was like, no, I want you to do it.
Yeah.
Because you turn into like this robot monkey at that point. And it's just like, why am I here?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a weird one.
See, this is the joy of working remotely now.
Yeah, you can roll your eyes all you want.
Yeah, there's nobody over my shoulder. You could still do, the old trick like, hey, can you lower that like a hair? And you you just put your finger on the fader and like, how's that? You can still do that remotely. My biggest the biggest issue when it comes to mixing is like you have to lay down the law when it comes to the amount of revisions. I've stopped charging by the hour for mixing because I'm charging by the hour, they can continue to ask for revisions more and more. And I have a client like this, and I would say to them like, hey, we are on revision 5. You need to put this to bed for your sake more than mine, and their only response is, but I'm paying you, but I'll pay you. I was like, I don't need that extra money. Like, we have other songs. You can pay me for those other songs.
Right.
So it's important to, especially remotely, to offer a package deal that includes like 2 revisions, a third if it's a teeny tiny thing, or if it's a mistake of mine, then of course that's, on the house. But so my recommendation for artists, so we don't get into that cycle, is be prepared to, take your time with revisions. Revisions are welcome. I mean, I've had revisions where I've basically had to remix the entire song. Okay, that's the drawback of working remotely, is that, all right, I didn't give them what they wanted. I have to give them what they want.
Right.
But, really be thorough at the head, and just know that your mix, it's never going to be perfect. There's always going to be things you're going to hear that are going to be, that are going to bug you, but nobody else knows.
Yeah, you get way too in the weeds sometimes, and it's just you start changing it, but you're not making it better. You're just making it a little bit different, or you're making such a small change that literally no one's gonna notice.
Especially 2 months from now.
Yeah. So that is a good thing to remember as an artist, is like, it doesn't have to be this like perfect thing. It's like,
things get too precious.
It has to feel good. If it feels good, you've really done your job. Everyone you're working with has done their job.
Yes.
And like the little details of something that maybe pokes out for a second, it's like, that's going to roll by the listener so fast. And
right.
Yeah.
It won't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, I get like you're creating a work of, like a painting, you want your painting to be all right.
Yeah.
But,
at some point though,
I'm sure even Picasso looks at Guernica and it's like, it was that shade of gray was just a hair off.
Yeah. You can just get in this endless cycle, and you're better off spending this money on your next song, or
right.
So I'm with you there.
These are pretty tame grievances.
Okay. Let's see. Do I got a juicy one somewhere? Well, this one's not that juicy, but let me just go down the list. Asking for something at the very end of the session when it's basically over, like a rough mix or stems or raw tracks or that thing. Like literally session's over. They're like, hey, can I get rough mixes of all the songs? It's like, well, yeah, but
not being prepared.
Yeah, are you gonna pay me for that time? Because it does take some time. It's not like it's hard, but it does take some time.
Right.
And so if you kind of don't leave any time for that and you expect it just to happen magically, it's annoying. And
do you like give them like a 2-hour warning, like, we should, if you want rough mixes, I gotta get those started soon or something like that?
Yeah, when I'm on my best behavior, yes, I remember to mention, hey, if you're gonna want rough mixes, we need to allocate some time here at the end. Or if raw tracks or stems or whatever, like,
Yeah.
And now, a word from our sponsor, Rarefied Recording. Oh, that's me. I would be remiss if I didn't mention my studio, Rarefied Recording, and the services I offer there. The studio itself was built from the ground up, from the masterful plans of Mr. Wes Lachaud, so it sounds fantastic both in the control room and the live room. A 32-channel Neve Genesis console holds center court and is complemented by a wide array of outboard gear, instruments, and microphones. Your music will be in good company. If you live in the San Diego area, just head on over to rarefiedrecording.com to learn more and book a tour. You can also hear examples of my tracking and mixing work. If you aren't lucky enough to live in San Diego, let me be the first to suggest the idea of a destination recording experience. San Diego is BBB approved. The Better Business Bureau? No, beaches, burritos, and beer. Even if you're not a beach person, who's to complain with temperatures that are very often in the 70s? Even the winter months are averaging in the mid-60s. And being relatively dry, rain is unlikely to get in your way. The studio is very centrally located, and you can get to just about anywhere in the area in 15 to 20 minutes. Even Mexico. And while burritos are technically not a food you find in Mexico itself, San Diego has taken the concept to blissful culinary heights. You can't go hardly 100 yards here without running into a little taco shop that will be 10 times better than whatever options you have in your town. If Mexican isn't your thing, no worries. There are tons of great restaurants in the area, including a barbecue place 3 blocks away that rivals anything I've tried in Texas. And adjacent to it is one of over 150 craft breweries in San Diego. If you love beer, we gotcha. The West Coast IPA style is a specialty here, but we've got brewers doing all kinds of beers, and several have tasting rooms in walking distance. Did I mention that accommodations are available? So head on over to rarefiedrecording.com and reach out for a quote today. That's RAREFIED recording.com. And now back to the episode.
I have a tendency when recording with a band that, like, I want those rough mixes to be so damn good that they're so impressed, that I will spend a little too much time on them. But
Yeah.
I don't like to give roughs out anymore because it always bites me in the
Really?
when it's time to mix. It's like, could you do that one thing you did in the rough, or is there something in that I really like, and then you're chasing your tail? But I mean, if they want a rough, I'll give them a rough. But then in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh boy, here we go.
This is going to be a problem later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I've also done what you've done, Ariel, of like, okay, I maybe the artist isn't necessarily going to use me to mix, so like I might spend a lot of time doing a rough mix to like impress them, and it's worked.
yeah.
Because if you put more time into it, it's better than people are like, whoa, that's a rough mix. Sounds like better than most mixes I've heard. But that's awesome. It's just one of those things though, when you get to the very end of the session and you're already like drained, and then okay, shoot, you want rough mixes too? Okay.
I'll tell you something that bugs me. Changing the session setup in the middle of the session, like very last minute. I had a client who used to do this all the time. We're 4-ish whatever songs into the day. We're on song 5. Yeah. I have the piano. This is all hypothetical. Okay. I have the piano set up for them to play on this song, and they get halfway through a take and they go, actually, you know what? Could we do the organ on this instead?
Right.
And I have to say like, yeah, sure. But like, all right, that's 45 minutes, closing piano, moving thing, doing the thing, setting the thing.
Yeah.
Actually, I like the piano better, Again, that's where as a musician, your prep and your expectations go a long way.
Yes. Knowing what you want when you come in and communicating that ahead of time.
Right.
Because I've had that too, where I thought we were doing acoustic guitar and something else, and then it turns out, they want piano and other stuff. And you didn't tell me that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Or if I say, or if your engineer says, which I did in this case, again, I don't remember the exact details, but I would say something like, well, it would take a long time to set up. Do you think we can actually, once we break down the main session, we'll do the organ after? Is that okay? And I think I'd like it now, please. All right.
I kind of gone through the period of, my first thought is, okay, great, okay, but then I'm like, you know what? It's all the same hours. It's all going to work out. It's going to be fine. It's not a big deal. So why should I get all ruffled about it?
Yeah, you just have to be prepared as an artist.
But it's nice to know.
If you do something like this, that there will be some time that it takes to set something up.
Yeah.
And you have to just be okay with that if that's what you're changing your mind on something,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is another pet peeve I have is like people kind of getting upset about setup time and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Is this going to take much longer? When are we going to start?
And it's like, well, dude, I mean, it's not like I'm not working here. Like,
or everybody on a tracking date, everybody shows up at the same time, and you're trying to work on one thing, and somebody's saying, "Where's an AC cord from my amp?" Or you know, it's like
too many distractions. Yeah,
I always try to get them to stagger when they come in.
Yeah, that's way better. You know, drums are usually like if you're doing a band, like the first thing you might be doing. So maybe the drummer comes first, and then you stagger in the other people.
How long does it take you to set up a drum kit and you know, get levels and stuff?
Well, I try to go fast.
Yeah.
I try to have it all done by 20 minutes if I can.
Wow, that's great.
But it probably setting up takes longer than getting sounds, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. The setup does take a while. Nowadays I have interns which help, which is great.
Nice.
So it's gotten better because it used to be like I would show up at the start time of the session and then, you know, artists, we're starting to get a little upset because it's like, okay, I got to click the mics. I got to put them on stands. I got to, you know, and it's a lot of work. So it's like I was getting paid for it, which is fair. But I understand, like, the artist wants to go, you know. So now I do have interns and they do some pre-work. And that's
cool.
good.
It does help.
Yeah.
It helps a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Coming in and having the drums, at least in the position, if they're going to use your drums, or the mics out there.
Yeah.
Maybe not even on stands, just the mics out there. It does. It makes a difference.
Yeah. But yeah, you have to expect there's some setup time and some grace and patience is much appreciated.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For a full band, I mean, it could take up to 4 hours sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
I find like the more experience I got, you know, and the wiser and better I got at this, the longer my setups took. Partly because, you know, I was a little bit more of a perfectionist, and I knew not to just slap something, whatever, willy-nilly. Like I was a little more careful with everything. And I kind of peaked at like the setup time length, and now I'm kind of on the back nine where like, okay, I got it, you know, and I can go faster again, and like that mic isn't necessary, and you know.
Right.
So now I think I'm back down to 2 hours for a full band.
That's good.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, then you get them working with their headphones, get comfortable with the headphones. That's always another can be nightmare because somebody doesn't know how to work this. Another guy doesn't have the right cable, and you know, or it's out of phase, and one headphone's not working. It's like, oh my gosh.
I always forget about the headphones.
These are other pet peeves.
Yeah. I would like, if I ever had an intern, it would just be my headphone guy.
Yeah. Just set up, get everybody happy.
Yeah. Because nowadays we have these boxes that let the artists kind of blend their own mix if you send them separate things. But I mean, understandably, most artists are not mixers, right? Like that's why they're paying for us, you know, partially. So like you can get some wacky headphone mixes going for people, and they just don't know what they're doing. So yeah, sometimes you got to go out there and kind of fix it for them. Yeah, or you get, you know, I have some older clients, and sometimes they're just kind of like baffled by the technology. Right? So be it.
I always try to get a balance so that if they put all the faders equal, that's a mix.
That's
it's a rough mix.
If you do that, that's amazing.
So yeah, I try to do that, but it doesn't always work.
If I have time, I'll kind of get a mix going for them, but it usually only works on an overdub session when there's already all the stuff there. You know, it doesn't really work in a tracking everybody live session. I don't know what the levels should be until people start playing, you know? So there's that.
There is that.
Yeah. And then what happens is that people steal the headphone adapters.
That's the studio owner gripe.
Yeah,
being a studio
they come in
owner,
with their own headphones, but it only has the little 1/8" jack, and they need the adapter to make it 1/4" to work with the system here. And I give them one, and I'm like, make sure that you don't walk away with that. But then they do.
Yeah. And if they walk away with one with the twisty on it, with the screw-on coil, that's smarts. Oof.
Right. Yeah. Other things disappear too.
I could see the studio owner thing being like a whole nother category of gripes.
Yeah.
You know.
There's other things that disappear, like the little tuners, the little snark tuners or whatever, the clip-on tuners.
Yeah.
Picks. Guitar picks.
Yeah, guitar picks.
Sticks.
Yeah, sticks. Moon gels that go onto... oh, yeah, I lost a symbol. Moon gels that go onto drum heads. Those disappear with people's drums. Yeah.
That sucks.
A lot of little things, mostly. Thankfully. Cables sometimes. Yeah.
Have you lost a mic?
No.
That's
I've lost a cymbal, though.
Yeah, that's
There was one cymbal that I don't know who walked away with it. I could not figure it out.
Do you think it was intentional or it just happened to, they were putting away their own cymbals?
I think it was unintentional. It wasn't the greatest cymbal, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I could never figure out what happened to it.
Mm.
Or the little clutch thing on a hi-hat.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Those have disappeared, too. Drum keys.
I lost a snare, but that was my own fault.
Oh, really?
I just left it at a studio and kind of forgot it was there, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, I should go get that." And it was gone.
Dang.
Yeah.
I loaned my headstock tuner to. I was opening for a well-known act who was just doing a solo show, and I haven't seen that tuner or my capo. Yeah,
Capos, yeah.
This guy has my tuner and my capo. I don't know if I should. I think I should probably keep names off of this, but he's a very well-known person.
Mm. You know who you are.
I know who you are.
So yeah, there's that. Also, the thing about staggering people, you know what happens is you get all these people in the control room, and you as the engineer, you're trying to get the drum sound or whatever other sounds, and there's all these conversations happening at the back couch.
Yeah,
it makes the job impossible.
I still haven't figured out the polite way to say shut up,
Turn it up really loud.
Yeah, that's good.
That a lot of times will move people out.
Mm-hmm.
Then they start talking louder.
That's true.
Yeah, if they have nowhere to go, they might just talk louder. But yeah, maybe they'll leave the room.
I had a couple of sessions where I just said, "You guys got to leave.
Yeah.
You got to get out of here," in a nice way. But they also knew I was being firm.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, man.
Yeah,
give me some space.
Yeah, so musicians out there, this is important. Your engineer is trying to get great sounds for you. So if you're distracting them with a bunch of conversations, it's not going to work.
It's like if three people sat around the guitar player in the chairs while he's doing his solo. Oh, you know what? You hit that one string, hit this other string.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
they wouldn't like it.
No,
I'll tell you. Here's one.
Okay. Yeah.
It's very difficult to work with bands who don't get along.
Oh yeah.
And look, everybody fights. I get it. But if you're not getting along regarding your music, that's very difficult. I did a session years ago with a band, kind of like a Tool metal-ish band, really good band, all very technical players, 7-string guitar player, all that stuff.
Wow.
And the issue with them is that they none of them had confidence in their own playing. So they all fought over the sessions with the singer was like just wrought with tension because he had no confidence in what he was doing. So insecure that like him like blowing up after every take caused the guitar player to fight with him in exchange.
Interesting.
Yeah,
it came from a point of lack of self-confidence that started the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, lack of self-confidence is worse than confidence.
Too confident. Yeah, I tend to agree with you there.
Yeah, and like honestly, without being a demanding person or a diva, quote unquote, blowing yourself up in the studio and having that confidence you need that because you are putting on a performance that is going to last a lifetime. So if you have to tell yourself you're the greatest thing since sliced bread while you're in there, do it.
Yeah.
Outside, hopefully you'll return to being somewhat humble, but I mean, I have to do it, because I also sometimes second guess myself and lack confidence. And then I have to kind of, close my eyes and put on a show and pretend I'm on stage or whatever it is to get me in that mood. But if you're new at this, it can be very nerve-wracking.
Yes.
And it's okay, but like don't make it into like an anger issue or a fighty issue,
Yeah. Well, I can imagine, just generally speaking, if you have a group that's at odds with each other for personal reasons or because of the music or something like that, it just would be a bad scene to be a part of, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So try to work those things out before you come in the studio.
And like, just remember too, like, recording is different than performing on stage. Like, think of it like an actor on a theater, on a stage in a theater, and an actor in a film. Completely two different things. So your quote unquote performance in the studio is gonna be different. It should be different. It's okay that it's different. Like, your relationship to the microphone as the vocalist is different than it is on stage. And if you are newer at this, it helps to keep that in mind,
Yeah, it's not a live show, but you do want to put emotion into what you're doing and give a great performance, right? I mean,
right.
Otherwise it's going to fall flat. But yeah, it doesn't have to be the same type of thing as what you do at the live show.
Yes.
But also, I think it's you don't want to be the band member that decides to pick on your other band member. Like, that's really awkward. Like, when for some reason, like, everyone is like down on like the drummer and like really giving him like real like not fun like
Yeah.
like really on him. Like,
Yeah.
That's
I've seen
good.
that where one guy gets beat up the most.
Yeah, beating up on one of your band members.
It's horrible.
Yeah, you don't.
Everybody
do
gangs up on him.
Yeah. Yeah, you can have light fun with people. You can make fun,
Yeah.
If everyone's on the same page of like joking around, like that's great.
Yeah,
But
totally.
yeah, when it gets serious and like, oof, bad scene.
Bad scene.
Here's another one. As an engineer, you're out there, you're getting drum sounds, you're moving mics around, and then the drummer starts playing at full volume while you're right there in front of them. Or you're on the guitar amp and you're moving the mic around. The guitar player just jams that thing at full volume right into your ear.
Yeah. That's not cool.
Don't do that to us.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Do you have those over the ear muff, like tractor
Airport?
I have
things.
one pair of those, but I never use them.
Yeah. I don't understand how people still do that.
Yeah.
Like live, like on, like for a sound guy on stage and in the studio. Like, has your head ever been next to a kick drum or no, it hasn't? Oh, okay. Well, come here and let me show you what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is not what you want to do to your engineer, because their ears are their biggest tool and you need those ears to be working.
Yeah.
You blow them out, that might be like, they might be shot for the rest of the day,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not getting good sounds after that.
Yeah.
If you're mixing a band, delegate a singular representative of the band to give notes.
Yes.
Because if the drummer wants the drums louder, and the bass player wants the bass louder, and the guitarist wants the guitar louder, and the vocalist wants the vocals louder, I'm just going to make the master louder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting too many
Yes.
input from too many different people is a big no-no.
For sure. Way better to designate one person collecting all the input and maybe being like, oh, guys, we have things that are conflicting here. We need to figure this out internally before we pass this along, because like you want the kick drum lower and I want it higher. What's it going to be?
Yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Although I will say it's been a long time since I've had like a revision note that was so drastic. Like discussing ahead of like, oh, here's another one. Like, being able to have some references as starting points is good, because then I know what they want. I can get inside their head. So when it comes to revisions, it's not a full day of remixing. It's a couple of adjustments.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've had to do a complete remix.
Good. Yeah. And that comes down to communication and just getting better as a mixer, I think,
Yeah.
in time that that stuff doesn't happen as much. Maybe this one, like, how guitars, you're a guitar player, like sometimes there's just like a lot of noise coming through your amp, stuff like that.
It doesn't do it at home.
Yeah. That's one thing, is like that comment's like, this wasn't happening at home.
It doesn't buzz at home.
So yeah, okay, I understand. But you probably just didn't notice because you're like, you weren't in a studio where it's super quiet or something,
Yeah.
But also I was going to say, like, that noise, like if you can just mute it in between takes, sometimes it's just incessant, you know what I mean? Like high gain amps and that kind of thing. Like, you know, it's just like mute that in between.
Oh, yeah. Part of when bands are tracking and similar to that, you're in here and you're trying to talk to the singer or something, and some guy's over there noodling away over the headphones, and you can't hear anybody talk back to you, and they can't hear you.
Yeah.
Or the drummer's over there doing something on the hi-hat. You know, just...
Yeah, in those in-between moments when people are trying to communicate, like try to quiet your signal. Don't play, or if you have some noisy thing going on, maybe, you know, find a way to mute it. That's something that drives me crazy.
Yep.
Another one is, especially with vocalists, I'd say, because this tends to be where this would happen the most, is sometimes we have some really expensive mics that we put up. You don't need to be moving the mics.
Yeah, that's true.
Because, you know, you don't want to be responsible for anything with that mic, right? They can be very expensive. So if something needs to be adjusted, just let the engineer do it.
Yeah. I find that a lot with the new people or that haven't been in the studio much.
Yeah. They just start grabbing stuff and moving around.
And, oh, let me move this over 2 feet.
And it's not like they're going to loosen the, adjusters on the stand. They're just going to crank it, you know.
Yeah. And if the speakers are on in the control room, that can make an insane sound on the speakers that might even blow a speaker, because it can, like, a lot of low frequencies can start to come through. And
woofers are moving.
Yeah.
And while you're at it, don't put your mouth on it. You know, don't get close to it. Like, you know, I put the pop screen 5 inches away for a reason, you know.
Yeah. So there's that. This one is funny. Like when you're trying to get sounds on someone, invariably, like as soon as you're like at the EQ to like adjust things, they stop playing.
Yeah.
So if you're in that mode of like, engineers like, hey, okay, can you play for me so I can, like, you know, adjust some things? Like, keep playing, you know, don't stop.
Yeah.
Have fun playing.
Yeah, this is your time to actually play.
Yeah, now you can noodle.
Yeah.
Well, though, you should play something similar to what you're going to play. That's another thing.
I usually ask them to play the song.
Yeah.
That helps.
That way the dynamics are similar, hopefully.
Yeah.
Except it's always going to be louder once they record.
You try to take that into account as an engineer over time, learning like, okay, well,
they always play harder.
A little bit under where I really want it in terms of level.
Except I had one drummer who actually played softer. I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Got shy.
Yeah.
Saw
the red light and just like,
Yeah.
But usually they're more excited and they're like on top of it.
Right. Yeah. Usually people get louder when they're actually.
How does one, how would you guys guide your clients if you can tell that they are getting some red light syndrome?
This is a tricky one. Yeah. I don't know. I try to remind them that we're here to have fun, you know, and this should be a fun thing, and it's not surgery. No one's gonna get hurt. No one's, you know what I mean? Like, you can mess up. It's okay. We just do it again.
Yeah.
I still get it. You know, I think that's one of the drawbacks of just recording myself is that I get really inside my head as opposed to having somebody else there. You know, I don't want to look like, part of me is like, well, I don't want to look like you know, so, and yeah, there's a looseness there when there's other people there with you that helps move forward, and you know.
Yeah.
But red light syndrome can be a real thing, and it's normal. It's okay.
Totally normal.
Nobody's judging you, but like we'll figure it out together.
Yeah. Totally. I think communication, just acknowledging it, maybe not to them, but just to yourself, and kind of helping them guide slowly, and just, hey, we're having a good time. This is awesome, man. Sounds great. Let's do another take.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to do enough takes where they start to loosen up, you know.
And they relax a bit.
Yeah.
Totally.
Set the mood, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's better if they're not looking at you, maybe have them look.
Bring the lights down.
Yeah. So as an artist, that's something to think about. Like, what's going to make you comfortable? You know, having the lights down, having maybe, not looking right into the control room, looking to the side. Maybe you want a little house built around you, you know, where you can do whatever you want in there.
Yeah. I'd like that. That sounds great.
Yeah. Whatever it takes, you know, all your favorite teas or little whatever that around you. It's important to be comfortable. Whatever you can do to help yourself with that, I think is a great idea. Yeah. Anything else you guys can think of? That might have been everything from my list. Let me see.
I'll tell you something. Try to define roles ahead of time, and or if the roles change as time goes by, be sure to redefine those. What I'm saying is, like, am I producing this? Am I co-producing this with you? Or am I just shutting up and hitting the record button, which is fine. I love just being the engineer as well. But let's figure that out so that when it comes time to make credits, I want to be properly credited for what I did. I want you to ask me for the spelling of my name if you're not sure what it is, and my last name as well, please.
Yes.
And put it on there properly.
What are credits?
Yeah.
Right.
This is a general thing. Yeah. Credits don't happen as much as they should.
Yeah. But even in like the, what do they call that? I can't think of the word, not the algorithm. Metadata. Thank you. It counts. I mean, it does or it doesn't. Like I want my credits where my credits are due because, again, not an ego thing. I believe that my career has suffered as a result of being miscredited or not credited. Not look, it hasn't made or broken me, but I think it has lost me some opportunity.
Right.
To when I ended up being the producer of this record, not just the engineer, it doesn't say producer or doesn't say anything at all, or you didn't bother to ask for my last name. It just says my first name. Like,
Totally. Yes, please credit us.
Credit gets you work.
Yeah, it is. It's a passive way of referrals, basically, because people hear something like, "Oh, this sounds great. Who worked on it?" If they can't find the name, then they'll never get that gig. So yeah, it's important to us, and it's just the right thing to do. I think it's like. Would you like to be uncredited on your own record? Like, I don't think you would, I mean, it just seems like common sense, but too often it's just forgotten about, especially in the days of streaming where it's not completely the artist's fault because sometimes the distributors don't actually even give you a good way or any way to add that stuff in. Some of those companies that do the push it out to all the different streaming things, like, they don't give you away, or the streaming platforms don't display it.
Right.
So it's not all artists' fault, but
yeah, it's a biggie.
Yeah, that needs to improve in general, and hopefully it will. Yeah. Anything else you can think of?
I don't know. I guess, like, when it comes to the final stages, I do highly recommend not asking your mix engineer to master the record as well.
Yeah.
It's very helpful to have a second set of ears on it. Mastering engineers are surgeons that are very, very good at their jobs, and it's a completely different thing than mixing. And they have completely different types of ears.
Yeah.
I have run into problems where I have mastered what I mixed, and first of all, I end up second guessing all my choices. And then sometimes I'll dive back into the mix as a result.
Right.
But there's, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it, but like it just, like, please don't expect me to master. Like, I'll do it if I need the money, but you're going to get a much better product if you take it elsewhere.
Right. I agree.
Yeah, me too.
We've talked about this before. It's the best way to go is a mixer and then someone else to do the mastering.
Yeah, I agree. I have a biggie.
Okay.
Payment.
Yeah.
Payment ASAP. And if instead of saying thank you or wow, this was a great session, pay on time.
Yeah.
Because having to wait 2 weeks when you did the project and your work is done, having to make a couple calls to say, hey, could you send over that payment? It's just not cool.
Yeah.
It's just really not cool.
Yeah. Definitely.
And when I get paid right away, or sometimes I get paid before the gig, I'm like, I feel great, and I feel like I put myself more into the project.
Yeah, I've started collecting like deposits.
Yeah, I usually
50%.
get half up if I can.
Right. Yeah. That's usually how it works at the studio too.
Yeah, a lot of the corporate like sound work I do though is net 30, so
Right.
not gonna do but wait.
Yeah. Some of these,
That reminds me of
situations
record days. You'd wait 90 days sometimes, and then you have to call just to get it going.
Yeah.
And it's like, come on, man.
Yeah. You shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, and the same goes for canceling last minute, all right?
And don't negotiate. You're not buying a used car. This is the damn price. This is,
Unless you want to go up.
right.
Sure. Yeah,
I mean, look, I don't know about you. I work on a sliding scale. There's a talent to a friendship to budget factor there, but I'm not sure. Even my best friends will pay me, a fair rate, and I hopefully will be able to pay them when I need their services. Just remember that, like, it might sound expensive, and it might be expensive, but don't complain about it, because that's why money is ugly, and just like remember. We're all in this together, and it will come back around. And if you are paying me that, if you're paying me well, that keeps our music industry cycling like in a healthy manner. Don't.
You're going to put everything into it.
Yeah,
yourself.
lowballing and haggling is look. It's a different story if it's like, hey, I really need to put this out. I only have this much money, depending on who it is and how they ask, like, okay, yeah, sure. Look, listen, I'll get to it when I can, and I'll do my best work, with the time allotted. But yeah, don't haggle.
It's only 3 minutes long, the song.
Right. It shouldn't take more than 6 minutes to mix, right?
Hey?
Yeah, that's like a live, when I'm like doing a bid for a party for like a cover band, and it's like, well, it's X amount of dollars. Yeah, but it's only an hour set. It's like, okay, it's still the same day for us, whether it's 1 hour or 3 hours. It's X amount of dollars.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into a live show. You go learn the songs,
Yeah,
all your expertise that no one's paying for directly, but they are paying. So same with recording and mixing, all that. It's like, you're not just paying for the time, you're paying for the expertise this person has built up over many, many, many years.
Indeed.
Yes. But yeah, the thing about canceling last minute sucks as a studio owner, especially because it's like, as a facility, like, I only make money when someone comes and books the time slot. Now, if you just like screw me over by like canceling last minute, that time slot is gone. Like, I'm probably not going to be able to put someone else in that time slot. So
yeah,
it's just money lost, basically. Like, which
is a good reason to get like money up front, is because you reserve time to do that mix or go to the studio. So I've turned work down because I thought I had a booking, and then all of a sudden that booking pulls out at the last moment. I can't fill, like you were saying.
Yeah,
can't fill that time.
Yeah, time is money, and it's just, even if like, well, I'm gonna come in later. It's like, well, yeah, that's great, but there was this slot of time that now is just gone. Now, and I could have made money there. Now I'm not going to be able to. And sometimes things happen. Major health crises and stuff like that. I try to be very flexible with people when it's like something major. But if it's just like some random reason why you're canceling, it's like, that's not cool.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've had to deal with any of that. I got to admit.
Yeah. I imagine remotely it's probably easier to deal with when you're not relying on someone showing up to do the work. Thanks for coming on the podcast, Ariel.
Oh, it's been my pleasure.
Awesome seeing you.
Thanks to everyone who listened, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Baba booey.
See ya.
Bye. That's our show for today, folks. Thanks so much for listening to Prepping for the Studio. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen to your podcast from. And don't forget to subscribe and tell your friends. Episode info and my ebook, A Musician's Guide to the Recording Studio, are available at preppingforthestudio.com. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out there. Prepping for the Studio was recorded and edited at Rarefied Recording by me, Roy Silverstein. Theme music written by myself and Ariel Levine. Performed and recorded by Ariel Levine. Many thanks to my co-host Brian Schubel and you. Best of luck to you and your musical endeavors. And remember, as Alexander Graham Bell once said, before anything else, preparation is the key to success. We'll see you next time.